Good morning, everyone. My name is Shrem from Crypto.IQ, and this is your morning edition of Crypto and Coffee. We have a few different topics today. Every week we'll be talking about some things that you want to hear about, and basically anything crypto related that we can talk about over a cup of coffee. Keep it light, keep it simple, keep it enjoyable. So there's a few things in the news this week that's worth talking about besides for price action. For exchanges, Korea's BitThumb has announced that they're banning users and customers from some of these countries like Iran, Iraq, North Korea. Why this is news? Well, most exchanges have already banned these people, so it doesn't really make an update. The reason I wanted to talk about it is because there are a lot of honest people in some of these countries that are banned. A lot of exchanges, if you're a member of the United States, if you're a citizen, you won't be able to actually trade on a lot of these exchanges because of the rules and regulations in this country. It's a shame. But what we're seeing is a bigger volume on decentralized exchanges like IDEX and Fork Delta. These are exchanges where you're not actually keeping your money on the exchange. Rather, you're using your wallet to trade with someone else on their own wallet. And it's pretty amazing because if you guys remember, during a lot of the major bull runs, we've had exchanges get hacked. And so by using decentralized exchanges, it's as if me and you are standing in the room together and we don't need to trust a third party. We trade with each other. And that's pretty awesome. And we're going to see that over the course of the next few years, even a few months. Decentralized exchanges will have a lot more volume and grow a lot better. Onto Lightning Network with Bitcoin. The Lightning Network is really growing by leaps and bounds. A lot of people are actually confused on what the Lightning Network actually is. Speaking of drinking a cup of coffee, right now with Bitcoin transactions, imagine if you walked into a Starbucks and you wanted to buy a cup of coffee, a yogurt, a sandwich, maybe even 3 or 4 more cups of coffee. The way the Bitcoin network works right now is that you'd have to send a transaction for everything you'd want to buy. So coffee, transaction, swipe the credit card. Yogurt, swipe the transaction, credit card. All these things you'd have to swipe your credit card, swipe your credit card. The way the Lightning Network works is when you walk into the store, you actually get to rack up a bill and create a receipt. And then once you're done with all your transactions, with your coffee, with your yogurt, with your sandwich, you then do one transaction to settle the receipt. That's the way the Lightning Network works. So 2 people know that they're going to be doing a bunch of transactions. If I have to pay payroll in Bitcoin, imagine where instead of me having to send a transaction for each specific person, I open up a payroll transaction, then can send 50 different transactions in one settlement, and then I settle it. And what happens is, it makes the fees a lot lower. Instead of doing everything on the chain every single time, I'm able to do it a lot faster and a lot cheaper. And instead of 50 different transactions, I can do it in one different transaction. And that's pretty amazing. Let's talk about EOS for a second. EOS is making the headlines and everyone's really excited about it. I've written articles and I've talked about the technology is always very important with anything like Bitcoin, Ethereum, all these other projects. Technology is extremely important, yes. But what's more important is the big word, socioeconomic aspect of how these things work. What does that mean? I didn't know what that word meant either until I learned about it. But essentially what that means is how people act and react when it comes to money. When it comes to real world use of money, how we act is a scientific situation, because what happens is we all treat money differently. We all treat value differently. So yes, currency like Bitcoin and Ethereum, the science and the tech is one thing, but how people act and react with it, I would say, is maybe 60-70% of how a system is valued. Bitcoin and Ethereum, we know it works. We have real world use of it. People are using it. People are holding it. People are transacting with it. They're using it as a store of value, as a bank account. We see that. EOS is pretty hot right now. The price of EOS is between $10 and $15 at any given day. But the thing is, EOS has no mainnet launch yet. It has no real, it's not even launched. It's all speculation on the future technology that's going to launch. And I'm very hesitant because as I hold some, and I think it's a long-term value, but we see what we saw this week is a security issue. We saw that there was a lot of attack vectors with EOS. And EOS has come and they've patched those attack vectors, But at the same time, it's a slap in the face to remember that Bitcoin and Ethereum has gone through these attack vectors already. They've already gone through all these hackers around the world trying to attack and hack into them. So when EOS launches, be very hesitant, because we haven't seen the attackers try to take over EOS yet. When that happens, we'll see how it succeeds. If it's stable and secure, we'll see the value and the price of it go up because people have a lot more faith in it. But if it's like what Ethereum was in the early days during the DAO and all that stuff, we're going to see a lot of people lose faith in EOS. So it's a wait and see approach. Of course, regulations are in the headlines this week. We have the SEC talking about tokens again. You know, the SEC so far, I'm very impressed because they've taken that careful approach so far. What that I mean is that we see the SEC taking enforcement actions against fraud, embezzlement, and scams. These are not a blanket like all tokens are securities approach, which would open up a whole door of new regulatory issues, but they're basically going after a lot of these frauds where people are stealing money, they're going after the embezzlement, and they're going after outright scams. And so far, my hat's off to that because I'm very impressed and I'm happy about that. That basically allows for innovation, but at the same time being our partner in getting rid of scams. Of course, adoption's growing. We see all these people who came into the crypto space in the bull run, and that the price has kind of cooled off, they're sticking around and they're saying, what's so important about cryptocurrency? Why is crypto important? And they're sticking around and they're growing. So although the price has cooled off, we see adoptions growing. The Wall Street Journal actually posted an article which was interesting to say that crypto is actually better than sex. Well, I think the jury's out on that one for me. I love both equally as much, and I love my wife, of course. So we'll see how that works out. But crypto definitely is kind of crazy. Speaking of crazy, if you guys have seen, Bitcoin has always been called Bitcoin. On to the gossip section of this. Bitcoin has always been called Bitcoin. But when the whole Bcash, Bitcoin Cash saga kind of happened, a lot of the Bcash, Bitcoin Cash proponents started saying, oh, Bitcoin is not really called Bitcoin, it's Bitcoin Core, because it's run by the Bitcoin Core group, and they were attaching this negative name attached to it. But there is no Bitcoin Core. So some of these very smart people decide, hey, we're getting all this free press from Roger Ver and all these other people, why don't we launch our own fork called Bitcoin Core? And Bitcoin Core is now different than Bitcoin. So Bitcoin Core is a fork of Bitcoin, calling themselves Bitcoin Core, and now they're getting a ton of recognition, a ton of free press from all these people. So it's really interesting to see that. I have to give a hand to those people who launched that because they're getting all that free press, and now the value of Bitcoin Core and the trading volume has been growing, and they're getting listed on a ton of exchanges. Alright guys, that's today's edition of Crypto and Coffee. We'll see you next week. Have a great day, guys.